What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I personally take notes. We're going to be note taking on this whole section. Skip to this time period if you want to go straight to the note taking. Before that, I'm going to go over what you need and show you an example of what my notes look like. These are my actual notes that I took for the exam. So I'm going to show you that too beforehand. If you want a shorter version, it's over on my TikTok, so go over there at ChootierSFG. You can find that. It's about a minute long, but let's dive right in. The most important part to my note-taking process is color coding. I always use 3 colors. It's not always these colors, it just so happened to be the 3 that I picked, but no matter what I'm taking notes on, things have to jump out at me. I don't know, maybe it's an ADHD things, but it has to jump out at me on the page, so I color code. The reason I always have 3 is, let's say this is the header color. This is like the text color, and this is the subtext color, as well as, where's my pen? Let's just say this is a pen. This will be my pen colors. This is what my actual notes look like for the actual pre-licensing course. I could probably mirror this. Right now it's showing that it's mirrored on my end, but yeah. I'm selling these for $15 a chapter, or $50 for the entire thing. So if you want to just buy my notes instead of taking your own notes, you can. So yeah, just let me know and I'll sell them to you. I also do mentorship, so you can book me and we can go through study sessions together. They're usually an hour long. I do $20 an hour, so if you just want to do that 1 hour, it's just $20. Every 30 minutes after that, it's $10. So first hour is $20, then it's $10 every 30 minutes. Yeah, basically. So if you want help studying or just need any advice, just send me an email and we can connect and get started. Okay, let's start. So as you can see on top of the page, it says Introduction to Life Insurance. I'm going to put that on top right here, as well as a little subcategory over here to specify what chapter I'm in. Let's talk about our colors. My purple dyed. I'm going to use the yellow and substitute for it. And since yellow doesn't show up well on camera, we're going to make that our 3rd color. So blue is going to be our header. That's the first. Pink is going to be our text. And yellow is going to be our subtext. This is how it's going to look. Information. Cool, that's important. Let's underline that. This is more information that we're writing as we're note taking. Bullet point. This is all information. Cool. There's going to be important stuff in there that we're going to highlight. Nice. Now, if there's something within this bullet point right here that I want to go further into, I'm going to make a second little bullet point, write some information. And whatever stuff I want to highlight here, now this is what's going to be pink. Same thing for yellow. If there's anything in here that I want to go deeper into, like this bullet point right here, I make a little sub thing and I'm talking about it. That's what's going to be yellow. You're going to see every now and then that I'm going to have little thought bubbles. Let's say for this one, I have something to add. I'll write a cute little thought bubble, put it like this, and point to it. The times where you'll see this is where, let's say it says, this is a definition. I'll put abbreviation of it. This is essentially the color scheme and what our notes are going to look like. So we write our header, Intro to Insurance. And I always paraphrase everything. So Introduction to Life Insurance is going to say Introduction to Insurance. I'm a big fan of shapes, so I'm going to box that in with and the identifying factor so I know what chapter we're actually talking about. I start note taking on the introduction. You might think that this is unnecessary because, it's not really the important stuff yet, but it really is just a summary of what you're going to be talking about. So I always make sure to include the introduction so that when I look back at these notes, I can just quickly skim through this little section right here without having to flip through my pages. Nice. And now we can start note taking. If you notice, I put blue under here because it's still in this same category. We're all still talking about the same information. let's start our first note take. Okay, so starting in the first paragraph of the introduction. When I'm reading the textbook to make it into a note, I always read through that first paragraph one time, and then I'm going to read through it a second time. This time I'm going to start taking notes. So, life insurance is a complex amalgamation of legal, tax, and economic elements. Basically, it's a unique wealth creation tool that assures the accumulation and availability of a desired amount of liquid capital at death. Depending on the plan or type of insurance, it may also create more or less capital for lifetime needs. That's a whole lot of information, and honestly, I didn't understand a single word that it said. So, now I'm going to rewrite what I just wrote. I can see that this first sentence is actually a definition, so we are going to write this as a definition. Life insurance make that a definition. And this, again, will be in blue. Life insurance. Cool. Life insurance is a complex amalgamation of legal, tax, and economic elements. So we'll rewrite that. If you notice, I put a plus sign here. I don't really like writing out the word and. Even though it's only 3 letters, I'm trying to save as much time as I can, so I just put a little plus. But that's our first definition of chapter 1. This is something that'll definitely show up on an exam. The reason why I know this is just because I've taken so many quizzes and tests in my lifetime. You can definitely pick up on a definition that's going to quiz you. So, first definition. The second sentence. Basically, it's a unique wealth creation tool that assures the accumulation and availability of a desired amount of... I'm not even going to finish that sentence just because there's so much going on. But basically, this is where we put a subcategory. That next sentence is talking about... That next sentence is going into deeper explanation of what life insurance is. So that's why I'm putting it as a subcategory. Unique wealth creation tool. Okay. Second one, assures accumulation. Okay. So I broke up that sentence into bullet points. It says the same exact thing. Now it's just a little easier to read. So now when I'm looking back my notes and looking through now when I'm looking back my notes and looking at the definition of life insurance is a complex amalgamation of legal, tax, and economic elements. Okay, cool. It's also a unique wealth creation tool. Nice. It also assures accumulation and availability of money at death. If you want to look closer here, I put a $sign for money, so I wouldn't have to write out money. I put the at symbol for at, just because I didn't want to write AT, and death. If you'd notice in this first paragraph, it actually has the word liquid capital, which I think is pretty important because that sounds specific. So this is actually where we'd put a thought bubble. Liquid capital. Oh my god, I can't write capital. But yeah, thought bubble. We're going to point it at that bullet point. If you haven't already, you are going to underline this little section. See, now it's a little easier to read. I hope it makes sense why I put a thought bubble here. In the definition in the textbook, it had the word liquid capital, and I just want to make sure I pointed out that, hey, if there's a test question that asks about liquid capital, it's talking about, this little subcategory. Moving on. Depending on the plan or type of insurance, it may also create more or less capital for lifetime needs. This is also another bullet point under insurance. Creates capital. I left out a lot of information from that sentence, so this is where I put a subtext now. Depends on policy Also, what else did I forget? More or less. This one I'm not going to put an underline on just because I don't want to put all of these as an underline. Depends on the policy, more or less. Put a star next to that. I put a star next to more or less because I feel like that's very important. With an insurance policy, you can either gain or you can lose depending on the policy. That just sounds like a pretty important point to me. And just to clarify, I can understand what that means, why I put a star there. I'm going to put that in a bullet point. Since yellow doesn't show up, I'm going to write this in pen and then put the bubble in yellow. Dot bubble, point. Just to make sure we're on the same page. This entire section is that last sentence. That last sentence reads, depending on the type of plan or type of insurance, it may also create more or less capital for lifetime needs. The most important information I took from that is that it creates capital needs. Life insurance creates capital needs, so that's why I wrote it like that. Now, to be more specific, it depends on the policy, and it's more or less. Just to clarify what more or less is, the person can gain or lose, and that's why I put the star, because I feel like it's important, and I pointed to what I'm referring to when I'm talking about the person can gain or lose. So now you can see all of our colors in play: header, our text, and our subtext. Moving on to that next paragraph. Through its unique capital creation feature and tax advantages, life insurance can help people solve a host of personal and business problems. However, insurers offer a wide variety of life insurance policy that are suited to a broad host of financial planning problems and needs. Let's stop there, actually. I don't want to get too far, so I confuse my brain, where that's actually a good place that we can stop. So now we can start note taking. Through its unique capital creation feature and tax advantages, it just told us that life insurance policies have tax advantages and it has a capital creation feature. It didn't necessarily go into what those mean further, so we're not going to write that down, but it's good to keep in mind. Life insurance can help people solve a host of personal and business problems. I'm not going to write that down because that is a given. You know what? I'm going to write it down just for the sake of it, but typically if I was writing notes, I definitely would not write that down because life insurance obviously helps people with their personal and business problems. And this is going to be a pink one again because we're still talking about life insurance. I wrote life insurance helps people personally and professionally. From that sentence, life insurance can help people solve a host of personal and business problems. I just rewrote it so it makes more sense to me. However, insurers offer a wide variety of life insurance policies that are suited to a broad host of financial planning problems and needs. The only important thing that I got from that sentence is that while it can help people, we're going to talk more specifically on how it can help people personally and professionally. Insurance companies offer a variety of policies that can basically fit. So I'm going to write, this is a paraphrase of what that last sentence just said. Life insurance helps people personally and professionally. Insurance, how does life insurance help people personally and professionally? Insurance companies offer a wide variety of policies for financial goals. Okay, so now let's add some color into it. So usually you would put this as pink. I don't think this is important enough to highlight, so I'm not going to highlight it, but just keep in mind it's still in the pink category. Now in the yellow, this is important enough to highlight because it's saying that insurance companies offer a variety of policies that can help, like, for your financial goals. And this is what our first page is looking like. All right, let's go to our second page. So now we just finished note taking. We're going to read through the remainder of that paragraph, then reread it a second time and take notes. Once an insurance advisor identifies a client's problems, the advisor must match the appropriate life insurance products to the problem. That's important. We're going to come back to that. To do so, the planner must fully understand the legal, tax, and economic elements of life insurance, as well as the particular features of each type of policy. Okay, cool. We're gonna have a lot of fun note taking here. This sentence is still referring to how insurance companies can help people personally and financially. So we're still in this yellow category. Remember, this little section is basically saying insurance companies offer a variety of ways that they can help. And this next one is going to say, how do agents help? Just to let you know that, hey, we're not talking about this information over here. This is a continuation of the information that's over here. Okay. We are going to say, advisor must match. Let's talk about what I just wrote. The advisor must match insurance products to the client's problem. That's a revision to the sentence that says, once an insurance advisor identifies a client's problem, the advisor must match the appropriate life insurance product to the problem. That next sentence, to do so, talking about the advisor, to do so, the planner must first understand the legal, tax, and economic elements of life insurance, as well as the particular features. So now we're going to add another subtext talking about this one, because this information that we're about to add is talking about this advisor. Advisor must understand. So here, I paraphrased. To do so, the planner must fully understand the legal, tax, and economic elements of life insurance, as well as the particular features of each policy. I'll just write that as a number 4. The reason I wrote it out like this is because I don't like writing out like long, strenuous sentences. Those are really hard to read, especially for me when I'm trying to just like flip through these notes. The advisor must understand 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 things that the advisor must understand in order to match the product to the client's problem. Let's color code first before I go way too deep into this. Remember, this is yellow. This is important, so I'm going to highlight that. And you might be asking, Judy, why would you write down a note that's not important? Although everything on here is important, this is a really good summary. If I were to be talking to somebody, these are the points that I would make. Like if I could take an entire page of notes and pick like 4 key things, that's what I would highlight. Although we've reached the end of our color scheme, what do we do when we get to this one? Now it's a furthering of yellow, so there has to be something right here. Well, we're just going to take blue and put it right here. So this one's going to be blue and this one's going to be pink. So if you can see the trend, they kind of just follow each other like this. So if you just keep going down the stairs, they're going to keep rotating so you can understand where you're at, like the levels of category. So this one's going to be blue. The advisor must understand, this is important, 1, legal, 2, tax, 3, economic elements, and 4, features of the policy. So now if we were to flip back to this page, we can fully read through this and it makes sense. This is what we're starting to talk about. This is more specifics. This is even deeper specifics. We're still talking about life insurance. It's just, okay, cool. This is where we're at. Now I'm going to read the last paragraph of the intro. This chapter will provide an overview of, as well as introduction to, the multifaceted aspects of life insurance. Use this chapter to gain and maintain perspective and balance, because life insurance is not really one product, but a multiplicity of products. Above all, learn to match the product with the problem. The only important thing I see in that paragraph is match the product with the problem. It's bolded and it's in quotation marks, so that's something that's definitely going to come up on a quiz. So the only thing that I'm going to take from there, all that last paragraph is basically saying is just like, all right, cool, let's get into the chapter. So none of that information is worth note taking except for that quotation. Now let's put that in pink. Match the product with the problem. This is not going to be a thought bubble. This is something that's going to be like shouting. So how I emphasize shouting is this. And I'm going to point that to that one and point it to that one to show that I'm referring to I'm referring to these notes when I'm looking at this quote. These are quotation marks. We finished the introduction. Now we're going to create a new header. Now we're going to create a new header. This is going to be in blue. Principal uses of life insurance. Insurance. See, I was going to write it all the way over here, but I don't like them kind of overlapping, so that's why I went over here. So now we have our header. Let's start note taking. Again, we only read like the first couple paragraph or first couple sentences. In this case, they're basically just sentences. So read the sentence first and then note take. Broadly stated, life insurance is indicated only when there is a need. The following is a checklist of common estate building and estate conversion needs that life insurance can satisfy. From those two sentences, the only things that I find worth note taking, and back in the introduction, we started note taking over here. We only do that with the intro. We don't do that with regular note taking. So don't write that over here. The reason why, it's gonna look way too cluttered because it's going into these notes right here. Start over here nice and fresh and clean. Rewrote the sentence in a way that makes sense to me. Now keep in mind that need is bolded. We're probably gonna need to remember a lot of these bullet points. So because this is bolded, that's an incredibly high indicator that the following information is going to be very important. That next sentence, just read the same thing. It's a checklist for the estate building and estate conversion needs. That's also important because we're gonna write down all of these bullet points. I do not care how long it takes you. You are going to write down all of these bullet points. I hope you're doing this with your summaries. One of the needs, provide for or supplement income needs of surviving dependent families. We can paraphrase that. The reason why it's important to write all of these down or to at least study them is because I can already see it now, a question on a quiz or a test that's like, list 5 needs that insurance policy can satisfy. So you're definitely going to either, God forbid, you have to write them out, 5 of them. So that's why it's good to know all of them, so then you can just throw them out when you need. So to make this make more sense, let's add some color into this. Life insurance is only necessary with a need. Now, what is a need? These are all examples of needs. So let's put a thought bubble somewhere on here to clarify that this is for estate needs. Estate needs. Estate. Estate. Cool. And since this is a subcategory, we are going to highlight these pink. I'm not going to highlight all of these pink just because that's going to be a lot of pink jumping out in you and it can kind of just mush all together and defeat the purpose of color coding. I'd select like, how many are these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'd select like 4 just in case there's a question that's like, tell me 3 estate needs for life insurance. Supplement income for surviving members. We'll do that one. Pays death and settlement costs. We can do that one because that sounds important. Pays debt. I'm not going to circle that. Provides children education. Let's do that one. So that's 3 on that page. That's all I'm going to circle. Now for this page, this looks a little dull. I'm going to make sure that you can still see. Yep. This looks a little dull, so we'll just like highlight 2 of these. Meet financial demands for children with parents with special needs. I don't really care. You know what? That sounds awful, so I'm going to highlight. Now it starts to look a little bit more like notes. Okay. That next section, this one is for business insurance needs. This is still talking about a need, and since it's blue, we're going to continue the thing for blue. And now we can start the same thing. Start putting our little bullet points. This one sounds very important. This one seems pretty important, and we're also going to highlight this yellow because that is going deeper into it. And that's all I'm going to do. Okay, so that is this entire page written down in notes, how I would take down in notes. I tried to make this as digestible as I could. Again, I'm selling, this is actually my insurance book, but I'm selling my notes from the chapters. Like, these are actual notes from the chapter. So $15 a chapter, $50 for the whole thing. I do mentoring for $20 a session. The sessions are usually 1 hour. You can go more than an hour. I go by the 30 minutes. So after the first hour, it is $10 every 30 minutes. So if you'd like help note taking, I can do that with you. Just email me and let me know. I'm here to help. But this is what that first page, just that one page of notes look like. So now let's get into the section of the video of if this was like study week, how would I study these notes? So I'm looking at this. I know I'm talking about the introduction to insurance, and I'm in chapter 1. So I'm looking at the intro. The intro is just going to be my summary of all these notes. So if I didn't want to read all those, I would just read the intro. What is life insurance? Life insurance is a complex amalgamation of legal, tax, and economic elements. Okay. It's a unique wealth creation tool. Okay. It assures accumulation and availability of money at death. Okay. It also creates capital for lifetime needs. What's this say? Liquid capital. Oh, it's referring to this note. Life insurance assures you get liquid capital at death. That's what that money is that it's referring to. The money that you get at death is liquid capital. All right, cool. Life insurance also creates capital for lifetime needs. Oh, but it depends on the policy, and it's more or less. What does this say? The person can gain or lose. Okay, so the person can gain more money or less money depending on the policy, but it creates capital for lifetime needs. Awesome. We're all still talking about insurance. Insurance can also help people personally and professionally. How do they do that? Insurance companies offer a wide variety of policies for financial goals. Okay. The advisor that assigns, I'm going to make sure you can still see it. Yep. The advisor that assigns these policies must match the insurance products to the client's problem. Oh, I see that this is a big theme here because this is in huge, bold words. Match the product with the problem. The advisor must understand the legal elements, the tax elements, economic elements, and the features of the policy in order to match the product with the problem. Okay, that makes sense. And since it's in yellow, I know it still ties to this I didn't highlight it, but this last pink bullet point. It helps people personally and financially. Okay, so now if I were to look back at this and wonder, how do people get helped personally and financially? Okay, well, companies offer a wide variety of policies, and the advisor must match the product with the problem. That is our intro. So going into our next section, the principal uses of life insurance. Okay, life insurance is a need, so you only really need, you only have it if you need it. Okay, what are the types of needs? These needs are estate specific. So if I were to read a couple of these, they supplement income. Okay, they pay death taxes and settlement costs. Okay, they provide money for children education. These are estate needs. What about business needs? Okay, they finance arrangements. This could be a non-qualified deferred compensation. And they also provide financial security. This is a business need, which is why people want insurance. This is how I would read my notes. This is how I would study. I'm talking about this. When you're reading through this, you want it to sound like a conversation, so that if you were talking to somebody, all you'd need to do is look down at your notes for your talking points. These notes are written the way that they are so that they're basically just conversation points. So if I'm talking to you, all I need to do is briefly look down at my notes. I know exactly what I'm talking about. The colors make it a lot easier for my eyes to track, and I can just pick out a couple things that I want to talk about. So if I want to go over that last section, life insurance is only necessary with a need. You can supplement your income, you can fund your child's education, or you could pay death death taxes or settlement. You can pay your death taxes or your settlement costs. Oh my goodness. This video was a long one, so kudos to you if you stuck it out to the end. Look out for my reels. I'm going to be posting what you should be doing after you pass your exam, things that new agents should know, all that kinds of stuff. So go ahead and check out my reels, check out my Instagram and my TikTok page. I'm posting on there all the time. Okay, cool. That's the end of the video. Bye.